Hello and welcome. So today I've got these M008 shifters. They're a bit of an odd bunch. I think they came out 94, 95, I'm not too sure. The following year they did an updated version that followed the newest style of shifter and mechanism for the M739. So these are a bit weird, for one, because they're not following the number pattern. These are part of the XT group and they are 3x8 speed. They also have no XT ring on them anywhere. They rectified that with their next version, but it seems a bit odd that they didn't do that. So we're going to disassemble them and put them back together again. I'm going to start with the 3-speed version, so that will be part 1, and then for the 8-speed version that'll be part 2, which I'll link in the description, and it will probably be coming up at the end of the video. So let's begin. Yes, this is nail polish on my finger. I don't know why I just felt like doing that when I was doing some touch up on a frame. So first thing we're going to do is remove the cover to access the mech. I have a feeling we're probably going to have to take off this as well to remove the bolt at the back at one point. So make sure you take out all the tension in the mechanism by flicking downwards. So first thing, there's a Phillips screw right here. Let's take that off. And then there's the hex key number 4 bolt here to take off as well. Here we have a number 10 nut to remove, and we'll be taking that off clockwise. So the spring right here is gone off, but it was originally latched onto that little slot right there on that plate. We can now remove this. And then we've got the return spring for that lever. Here you have a bushing. We can now proceed to lifting up the lever. So underneath the lever there's a very thin copper coloured washer. Here you have a circlip to take off. So you're going to need to have something fairly sharp to get behind it to click it out. Pull and its little return spring. That's hooked underneath. It's not coming off. Got it. Next, underneath here there's a nylon bushing. Underneath here there's another clip to circlip to remove. We can now lift up this plate. There's a copper coloured spacer. Underneath that is a gold coloured, again, spacer. Hold on. It's so thin though. Yeah, got it. And here there's a spring, so it's latched onto that hook part there, and then goes around this this form of rod. So let's unhook that. Let's take off that lever. Nothing underneath. We've now got access to that sill. Okay, so there's the spring now for another pull. There's 2 of them. This is pushing against one of them, so we can now lift that up. and take off that pull. So let's now take off this sprocket. Everything seems to be lifting out. Okay, that's good then. We're not going to have to take off that back cover from the look of it. So we can now remove the bushing. Let's take off this sprocket. Very sticky. Ah, got it. Let's take out the cam part, and underneath that is the return spring for the cam. I would avoid removing this part here that's running through it. It might need to be in a specific place, and we don't want to confuse ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and clean all this. I kind of group them separately to make it a little bit easier for me to put them back together again later on. I also get some paper towels and a little bit of degreaser to take off the old grease and then put them back together again in the same group. I've cleaned everything up, so now we can assemble it back together again. I'm going to use my Shimano grease for this, though you can use Teflon grease or any kind of lithium based grease, should be somewhat fine. I'm going to grease all the parts that are going to be having friction or where they rub, so underneath the springs, etc. I'm also going to be putting it as I go along, as the parts get greasy when I'm doing it, and I don't want to get my hands more greasy than they need to be. Take the cam and its return spring. So for the spring, there's one part that's sticking outwards. You're going to put that into the slit here of the cam, and you'll have the other tip that's sticking out. So grab the main part. You want to put the other tip of that spring into the hole right here, and now aim for that hole right here. Next, grab the sprocket, put a bit of grease underneath that. The part that's facing upwards, or saying stamped C, at least that's on my one, we're going to put it towards the right of that cam, slide through. On top of that there was a bushing, and stick that on the top right there. So on here you have this first pull, really long. Put that back on, and you want to push this sprocket back until this pull latches or engages onto the first tooth of the sprocket. Make sure that's all the way down. And for the other pull, we're going to engage that onto the second one, although it should now already be in the correct position for you. It will be essentially like that. Next, grab the small spring. Now the that long tip that's going to face downwards. So we're going to put that there for now, and as you'll see, it's going in front there of that pull. Grab the main body. So the shape of that bottom plate there of our mech is going to fit perfectly inside like a puzzle. So make sure that goes in nicely. We now got to put the lever back in, so grab the lever, this one, and that hook part's going to go through that bushing firstly, and it's going to kind of have that hook going between the two pulls. Now we've got that spring, so the hook part's going to go onto this pivot here, and that tip facing downwards is going to go around about here where there's that other hook of the lever. So let's see if I can do this without using any tools. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult. I'm going to use a flat-headed screwdriver to just kind of catch underneath there and then help me bring it towards there. Okay, so I'll make sure it's nice and pushed down. Now we've got that very, very thin washer, which I slightly bent actually when I was cleaning it. Must be a fraction of a millimeter thick. So stick that through there. And we've also got that copper coloured washer. Stick those two there and force them to the bottom. Make sure the spring's not in the way. There, you want it laying flat. And now you can grab this plate. There's a tab facing downwards, and it's going to eventually go just in front of that C, I think. Let me check. Yeah. And the two pivots are going to go through those two holes. Like so. Now right here, there's that little tip of that spring for that pull. We're going to need to push it back, and we want to incline it so it's just going in front of this. That's kind of acting as a holder. The easy way to do that is to use a long nose plier. You can try and do it with a screwdriver, it's just a little bit more fidgety. Yeah, once you've caught it, normally, there you go, and now it's gone right in front. You can now grab that circlip and stick that underneath that pivot to hold the plate in place. Alright, that's underneath. Let's prepare the this lever, the pull underneath the lever. So grab the spring, that part that's hooking, it's going to go underneath at the back like that. Then take this pull and it should go like this on the top. So eventually when it's going to be reclining, it's going to spring back. And there's a small circlip to put there as well. Clickety click. I nearly forgot this seal, so we're going to put it in, stick that through that lever, and you should be able to just get underneath where it's kind of thin, to get underneath the lever properly, and then make sure that's placed. So underneath that lever, put a bit of grease. We're going to have that thin copper washer there. And there's a nylon bushing, and we can sit that through. So this that pull there is going to go in between where you can see that C and this part here. So when we're going to put it in, we want that a little bit reclined, and it's going to be going downwards. So just do that. I'm just pushing on mine. There you go, and now it's seated in place to push the sprocket towards this way. Again, add a bit more grease, and here there's a bushing that we're about to place going through there. Stick that on. There you go, nice and pushed in. Let's take the return spring. So on the exterior is that tip that's sticking out. You're going to want to put it just there. Now grab the plate, and it should go roughly in this position, and the teeth should kind of fall into place. I think it's going to be here. Seems to be going down. Yeah. So the other tip of that spring, get out of the way before you lay it flat. It's falling all over the place. Okay, now I can lay it flat. Grab the nut. Now put a little bit of thread locker on there to make sure that the nut never falls off. I actually put some just before I started shooting. When I mean thread lock, I mean like Loctite, for example. And this nut's going to screw now on anti-clockwise. It's pretty hard to catch the threading, but you should get there in the end. You don't want to do that on too tight just yet, just enough so that the plate here is fairly flat. Now that other tip of that spring, we're going to bring it up to that little hole right here. Okay, got it. Make sure the spring underneath isn't overlapping before you start tightening down the nut finally. Yeah, if I pull it towards here, it doesn't seem to move out. Okay, now tighten down that last nut. Okay, I think I've got it. There. We can now grab our cover, sew that back on. And then the final bolt that runs through the middle. You can test this. I'm sure mine works and it's running really nice and smoothly. So thank you for listening. I hope this helped you service your M008, 008, not 007, XT shifter. Stay tuned for the second part. And until next time, peace out.